The vast chamber of the Galaxy Council gleamed under the artificial light that simulated a star's warmth. 12 massive chairs arranged in a semicircle dwarfed the 13th, a standard-sized seat positioned slightly below the others. The symbolism wasn't subtle. Jake Morrison, Earth's ambassador to the Galaxy Council, had grown accustomed to looking up at the representatives of species that considered themselves far superior to humanity. Jake straightened his formal diplomatic uniform and took his place at the small podium. Today marked the 200th anniversary of Earth's acceptance into the Council. 2 centuries of contribution, innovation, and consistent disrespect. As a seasoned diplomat with 20 years of service, Jake had mastered the art of maintaining a placid expression while seething internally. The crystalline walls of Crystalline, the Council's capital city, refracted light in patterns that would have been mesmerizing if Jake weren't so focused on the agenda before him. The Council chamber housed representatives from 12 species that had ruled the galaxy for millennia, before humans had even left their solar system. In the 2 centuries since joining, humanity had expanded dramatically, establishing colonies across 40 planetary systems, particularly in the resource-rich Kepler sectors. The human multi-planetary civilization had developed advanced quantum engines, energy shields, and hyperspace navigation systems that benefited the entire galactic community. Yet, despite these contributions, the Council continued to treat Earth as a junior partner, requiring guidance and restrictions. Prime Counselor Zathara, the imposing representative of the Crystalline Empire, stood and raised a multifaceted hand. The chamber fell silent. "We begin this session with the matter of the Kepler mining rights." Zathara's voice resonated through the chamber, each syllable precisely articulated. After careful deliberation, the Council has determined that Earth's extraction operations in the Kepler systems have been inefficient. Jake felt a chill. The Kepler operations were the backbone of Earth's economy. His briefings had mentioned nothing about a review of mining rights. Therefore, Zathara continued, the Council has voted to transfer all Kepler extraction rights to the Veltroni Corporation, effective immediately. The Veltroni Corporation, a massive conglomerate controlled by the Alarian Trade Group, whose representative sat smugly 3 seats to Zathara's right. Jake's diplomatic mask slipped for a fraction of a second. "Prime Counselor," Jake stood, speaking with measured calm that belied the fury building within him. "Earth has invested 3 decades developing the Kepler mining infrastructure. Our efficiency metrics show a 42% improvement over the galactic standard. By what measure have we been found lacking?" General Crix of the Draconian Empire snorted derisively. "Human measures, no doubt. Your species always overestimates its capabilities." Veltar, the Alarian representative, nodded in agreement. "The Council requires resources extracted with maximum efficiency. Humanity has had its chance to prove itself." Jake looked around the chamber, seeing only dismissive expressions. This was not a discussion. It was a notification of a decision already made. "I formally request a review of this decision," Jake stated, invoking one of the few procedural rights Earth maintained. "Very well," Zathara gestured languidly. "All in favor of maintaining the current decision indicate now." 11 lights illuminated around the chamber. Only Earth's remained dark. "The decision stands," Zathara declared. "The Veltroni Corporation will assume control of all Kepler operations within 30 galactic standard days." Jake felt something break inside him, not his resolve, but the last thread of hope that diplomacy would ever grant humanity equal standing. He nodded once, gathered his materials, and said with perfect calm, "The Earth delegation acknowledges the Council's decision." As Jake left the chamber, none of the Council members noticed the subtle hand gesture he made to his aide. 3 fingers pressed against his palm in quick succession. The signal that would change the galaxy forever. In his private office, Jake entered a secure communication booth. His hands didn't tremble as he placed his palm on the scanner and spoke clearly. Protocol 7 authorization, Morrison, Jake, Earth Ambassador. Authorization code Omega 729 Delta. The quantum communication system activated, creating an untraceable link directly to Earth's Defense Minister, Lisa Parker. Lisa's face appeared on the screen, her expression grim, even before Jake spoke. "They've done it," Jake said simply. "The Kepler systems have been reassigned." Lisa nodded once. "Protocol 7 is authorized? Timeline?" "Immediate implementation. They expect compliance within 30 days. "Understood. We'll be gone in 72 hours. Lisa's eyes showed a mixture of determination and regret. "Jake, make sure you're on the last transport." "I'll see it through," Jake promised. "Parker, we've prepared for this for 30 years. But I never thought." "None of us did." Lisa's voice softened momentarily. "But they've left us no choice. Humanity will no longer be treated as second-class citizens of the galaxy." The communication ended, and Jake sat back in his chair. Protocol 7. The contingency plan developed in secret over decades, hoping it would never be needed. Total withdrawal of human presence from Council space. The greatest exodus in human history was about to begin. Lisa Parker didn't waste a moment after Jake's transmission. In her underground command center beneath Washington, she activated a quantum-secured line to Admiral Grace Sullivan, who commanded Earth's fleet near Titan. "Admiral Sullivan, Protocol 7 is active. Initiate Phase 1, 72-hour timeline." Admiral Sullivan's face remained impassive, but her eyes widened slightly. "Confirmed. Minister, Phase 1 commencing now." Throughout human-controlled space, encrypted messages flashed through quantum networks. On Titan, Dr. Amy Collins received priority notification while supervising her research team. She dismissed her assistants with practiced casualness, before locking the laboratory doors and activating a hidden terminal. Protocol 7 authentication, Collins, Amy, Science Director, authorization Beta 537 Epsilon. The screen confirmed her identity and displayed a single message. Protect and transport. 72-hour window. Amy moved quickly to a secure storage unit embedded in the laboratory wall. Inside were backup drives containing the sum total of humanity's most advanced scientific discoveries. Technologies kept hidden from the Council for decades. Among them were the prototypes for Quantum Drive 2.0 and third-generation energy shields. Innovations that would have revolutionized galactic travel and defense if humanity had been permitted to share them. Now, they would serve a different purpose. "Begin data compression and security protocols." Amy instructed the laboratory's AI system. "Prepare all prototypes for transport to designated coordinates." Across the solar system and beyond, similar scenes played out. Captain Ryan Tucker received his orders while overseeing civilian transport operations. For 30 years, seemingly ordinary passenger vessels had been secretly retrofitted with enhanced engines, extended life support systems, and concealed cargo holds. Now their true purpose would be revealed. "All transport captains, this is command. Protocol 7 is active," Tucker announced over a secure channel. "Begin civilian evacuation procedures immediately. Priority loading for scientific personnel, followed by general population. 72-hour completion window." On New Detroit, an industrial world that served as humanity's manufacturing hub, Carl Johnson led the factory dismantling teams. His orders were clear: salvage what could be transported, destroy everything else. Nothing of value could be left for the Council to reclaim. "Set the charges at structural points," Johnson instructed his team as they moved through the massive assembly plant that had produced quantum engine components. "We're taking the core technologies, but the facilities burn." Dr. Nathan Price directed the trace removal teams at the outer research stations. His specialists methodically wiped databases, destroyed unique equipment, and removed all evidence of humanity's scientific advancements. Complete data purge confirmed, a technician reported. All systems wiped to hardware level. Good, Price nodded. Now physically destroy the servers. Nothing recoverable. In orbit around Jupiter, Admiral Sullivan's fleet of 20 advanced warships moved into position, their new shield technology activated for the first time at full capacity. The vessels gleamed with a subtle blue shimmer that betrayed the energy field surrounding them, technology far beyond what the Council believed humans possessed. Deploy protective formation around the transport lanes, Sullivan ordered. I want continuous coverage for all evacuation vessels. Any interference from Council ships is to be met with Level 2 deterrence. From her observation post in the Oort cloud, Intelligence Commander Maya Roberts monitored Council communications. For years, her network of information gatherers had been positioned throughout Council space, ready for this moment. Council representatives are being notified of unusual activity in human sectors, she reported to Lisa Parker. The Draconian Military Command has ordered scout ships to investigate the increased transport traffic. Let them come, Parker replied. By the time they understand what's happening, it will be too late. Senator Kate Davis prepared the final diplomatic message in her office on Earth. The formal resignation from the Galaxy Council had been drafted years ago, awaiting only the final authorization. She reviewed the document one last time before transmitting it on all official channels. The United Nations of Earth hereby formally withdraws from the Galaxy Council, effective immediately. All treaties, agreements, and obligations are considered terminated. Earth no longer recognizes the Council's authority over human affairs. We will no longer be subject to your prejudice and exploitation. You have consistently demonstrated that equality was never your intention. Humanity will forge its own path among the stars. The message was simultaneously delivered to every Council embassy and outpost throughout the galaxy. The Council's reaction was predictable. Emergency sessions were called. Accusations flew. Threats were issued. But by then, the human exodus was already well underway. 72 hours after Protocol 7's activation, the most astonishing migration in galactic history was complete. 3 billion human citizens from 40 planetary outposts and hundreds of space stations had vanished from Council space. Where thriving colonies had existed, only empty structures remained, stripped of all valuable technology and resources. Earth itself stood abandoned, its cities empty, its orbital platforms dark. The Kepler mining operations that had sparked the crisis were left as hollowed-out husks, their valuable equipment removed or destroyed. In the Council chamber, chaos reigned. The 12 representatives gathered in emergency session, their previous arrogance replaced by growing panic. "How is this possible?" demanded Zathara, addressing the holographic projections of system surveys. 3 billion humans cannot simply disappear. General Crix slammed a scaled fist on the table. They must have been planning this for years. My intelligence agents report that 70% of hyperspace beacons have gone offline. Navigation beyond established routes has become impossible. Veltar of the Ilarian Trade Group looked ashen. The galactic economy is collapsing. The humans maintain the underlying infrastructure of our trading networks. Without their engineers, the systems are failing. The revelation stunned the chamber into silence. For centuries, the Council had relegated humans to seemingly menial roles: maintenance, engineering, scientific research assistance, never realizing that humanity had quietly become indispensable to the functioning of galactic civilization. "We must locate them," Zathara declared. "The humans possess knowledge critical to our infrastructure." "With what ships?" Crix retorted. "Half my fleet is grounded due to engine failures. The maintenance protocols were in human databases, which they've completely wiped." The debate was interrupted by a transmission appearing on the chamber's main screen. Admiral Grace Sullivan's face filled the display, her expression resolute. "This message is directed to the Galaxy Council. Humanity has re-established itself in a location beyond your reach. We have formed the Free Earth Territory, with a new navigational grid independent of Council infrastructure. Any attempt to interfere with human independence will be met with decisive response. We now possess technologies you cannot counter. To demonstrate her point, the transmission showed a fleet of advanced human warships activating shield technology that the Council's scientists had deemed theoretically impossible. Earth did not want this outcome. Sullivan continued. For 2 centuries, we contributed to galactic prosperity while enduring second-class status. That era is over. The free Earth territory will engage with individual species on terms of equality only. The Council's authority over humanity has ended. The transmission terminated, leaving the Council chamber in stunned silence. In the days that followed, the full impact of humanity's departure became apparent. The carefully integrated galactic economy that had functioned smoothly for millennia began to unravel. The Draconian Empire lost 50% of its fleet to maintenance failures, as the human engineers who had maintained their engines were gone. The Crystalline Empire faced an energy crisis when power distribution systems, quietly optimized by human scientists over decades, began to fail. The Alarian Trade Group froze all transactions as financial networks collapsed. Council species turned against each other, blaming one another for the catastrophe as resources grew scarce. Millennia of stability crumbled in a matter of weeks. Meanwhile, at a location designated New Earth, humanity flourished. The orbital city that served as the capital of the Free Earth territory raised its flag, a blue and silver emblem representing freedom and technological advancement. The evacuation had been meticulously planned, with essential infrastructure pre-built in secret over decades. Quantum Drive 2.0 engines allowed human ships to navigate paths through hyperspace that Council vessels couldn't access. Third-generation energy shields protected settlements from both natural threats and potential Council aggression. Stealth communication satellites enabled humanity to monitor the galaxy while remaining undetectable. President Helen Carter addressed the assembled human leadership in New Earth's Central Plaza. For 2 centuries, we contributed our innovation, our labor, and our resources to a galactic community that never accepted us as equals. Today marks the beginning of a new era, one where humanity determines its own destiny. Dr. Amy Collins stood nearby, watching with quiet satisfaction. Her scientific breakthroughs had contributed significantly to humanity's successful exodus. The Council never understood that their restrictions only drove us to innovate in secret, she remarked to Admiral Sullivan. We've achieved in 30 years what might have taken centuries under their oversight. Sullivan nodded. They thought they were exploiting a useful but inferior species. They never realized we were studying them as carefully as they thought they were studying us. 6 months after humanity's departure, the galaxy had transformed. The once mighty Council had effectively dissolved, with individual species forming temporary alliances to survive. Some former empires had descended into civil war as resource shortages fueled ancient rivalries. Admiral Alex Turner, now commanding Earth's diplomatic fleet, broadcast continuous messages across former Council space. The Free Earth territory extends an offer of bilateral relations to all species willing to engage on terms of mutual respect and equality. We have no desire to return to the old order. Any future cooperation must be founded on principles of fairness, autonomy, and shared prosperity. The message resonated with many worlds that had also chafed under Council dominance. Several former Council species sent envoys to New Earth, seeking agreements for trade and technological exchange. Others, particularly the Draconian and Crystalline empires, declared humanity enemies to be subjugated, though they lacked the means to enforce such declarations. Jake Morrison, now serving as Foreign Minister of the Free Earth Territory, welcomed a delegation from the Alarian Trade Group, the same organization that had so eagerly taken Earth's mining rights months earlier. Minister Morrison, the Alarian representative, began. We hope to establish new trade agreements beneficial to both our peoples. Jake smiled thinly. The free Earth territory is open to equitable arrangements with all species. However, understand that the exploitation of the past will not be tolerated. Any agreement must acknowledge humanity's full sovereignty and provide fair value exchange. The Ilarian shifted uncomfortably. Of course, the Council's previous approach was misguided. The Council no longer exists, Jake corrected, and humanity will never again submit to collective governance that denies our equal standing. As the new human civilization flourished, President Carter convened a meeting with her senior leadership to discuss the future. The chamber in Orbital City bore no resemblance to the hierarchical arrangement of the Council. Here, all seats were equal, arranged in a perfect circle. Our withdrawal was necessary, Carter acknowledged. But isolation cannot be our permanent state. Humanity has always thrived through connection and exchange. Admiral Sullivan nodded. Our intelligence indicates that several former Council worlds are establishing democratic governments. These could be potential allies. And the threats? Asked Lisa Parker, who now served as security director. The Draconians and Crystalline remain hostile, Maya Roberts reported. But their military capabilities continue to deteriorate without human technical support. They pose no immediate danger to our territory. Dr. Amy Collins activated a holographic display showing technological development projections. With our research now unrestricted, we're advancing at an unprecedented rate. Our latest quantum drive prototypes have doubled efficiency again. We're at least a century ahead of former Council technology now. President Carter studied the reports. We left the Council because we refused to be treated as inferiors. We must ensure we don't make the same mistake with others, now that we hold technological advantage. Our path forward must embody the equality and respect we were denied. Jake Morrison spoke up. Some former Council members have requested our assistance in rebuilding their failing infrastructure. This presents an opportunity to establish new relationships on our terms. Proceed with those willing to acknowledge our sovereignty, Carter decided. But we maintain our defensive posture and technological security. The lesson of the Council's arrogance should not be forgotten. 1 year after Protocol 7, the galactic landscape had transformed entirely. Where once stood a monolithic council dominated by ancient species, now existed a diverse network of independent alliances and governments. The Free Earth territory had published a new galactic map, marking the beginning of what humans called the Age of Freedom. Earth's former territories in Council space remained abandoned, monuments to the cost of disrespect and exploitation. The Kepler mining rights that had triggered the Exodus were now worthless, the infrastructure destroyed, and the most valuable resources removed. In New Earth's diplomatic quarter, Jake Morrison welcomed representatives from 20 former Council worlds seeking cooperation agreements. The humans, who had once been relegated to the smallest seat at the table, now held the key to galactic stability. Ambassador, one representative asked, why did Earth wait so long to assert its independence? Your preparations suggest you could have done this decades ago. Jake considered the question carefully. Humanity genuinely believed in the ideal of galactic cooperation. We wanted the Council to succeed as a forum for mutual advancement. We kept hoping that our contributions would eventually be recognized and respected. He paused. It took us too long to accept that some systems cannot be reformed from within. On the bridge of the flagship Freedom, Admiral Sullivan watched as a former Council world came into view, a planet now seeking human assistance to rebuild its failed power grid. It's strange, she remarked to Dr. Collins, who had joined the diplomatic mission. A year ago, they wouldn't acknowledge our scientific contributions. Now they're asking us to save them from technological collapse. Collins nodded. Pride comes before a fall. The Council species were so convinced of their superiority that they never recognized their growing dependence on us. She gestured to the planet below. They're learning humility the hard way. And what about us? Sullivan asked. How do we avoid making the same mistake? Power can corrupt anyone. By remembering our history, Collins replied. We experienced firsthand what it means to be treated as lesser beings despite our contributions. That's a lesson we must never forget. In the galactic regions once dominated by the Council, new patterns emerged. Some former Council species formed their own cooperative alliance, explicitly modeled on principles of equality. Others retreated into isolation, struggling to rebuild lost technology. The Draconian Empire, once the military powerhouse of the Council, fractured into competing factions without human engineering to maintain their fleets. On New Earth, humanity continued to advance at an accelerated pace. Free from Council restrictions, human innovation flourished across every field. The cities of the Free Earth territory became beacons of art, science, and democratic governance, drawing immigrants from across the galaxy who sought opportunity and respect. President Carter's administration established the principles of free association, a framework for interaction with other species that enshrined equal standing and mutual benefit as fundamental requirements. Unlike the Council's hierarchical structure, this new approach recognized the unique contributions of all participants. Our exodus was not just a physical journey, Carter declared in an address marking the first anniversary of Protocol 7. It was a philosophical statement. Humanity will chart its own course, but we extend our hand to all who wish to journey with us as equals. At a frontier outpost near the former Council border, Maya Roberts monitored communications from former Council worlds. Reports flowed in of political upheaval as populations demanded the same freedoms they observed in human society. The rigid hierarchies that had dominated galactic civilization for millennia were crumbling in the face of a powerful alternative. "They're following our example," she reported to Jake Morrison during a secure transmission. The Alarian Democratic Movement has gained control of 3 major worlds. Even on Draconia, reformists are challenging the military hierarchy. "Revolution often follows example," Morrison replied. The Council maintained power partly by convincing everyone that their system was the only possible option. "We've demonstrated an alternative that works better. That's more powerful than any weapon." As the second year of independence approached, the Free Earth territory had established diplomatic relations with 37 former Council worlds and expanded human settlement to 15 previously uninhabited star systems. The human population, no longer constrained by Council quotas, grew rapidly as the birth restrictions of the previous era were lifted. Admiral Sullivan, overseeing the continued expansion of Earth's defensive capabilities, often reflected on the irony of their situation. "The Council thought they were keeping us under control," she remarked during a strategy session. "In reality, they were forcing us to become more self-sufficient, more innovative, and more unified than we might have been otherwise." "Adversity forges strength," Lisa Parker agreed. "Every restriction they placed on us became a challenge to overcome secretly. Every dismissal of our capabilities motivated us to prove them wrong, even if they never knew it." Dr. Collins, whose laboratory now occupied an entire space station dedicated to quantum physics research, had recently achieved another breakthrough in hyperspace navigation. "We've mapped pathways that the Council species believed were theoretically impossible," she announced to the Scientific Council. "This will reduce interstellar travel time by 60% for our fleet." The news was met with enthusiasm, but also prompted philosophical discussion about humanity's growing technological advantage. "We must be careful not to become what we despised," one Council member cautioned. "Power creates temptation, which is why we maintain absolute transparency in governance." President Carter responded. The Council's fundamental flaw wasn't just their arrogance, it was their secrecy and lack of accountability. Decisions affecting billions were made by 12 individuals who answered to no one. The Free Earth Territory's democratic constitution, by contrast, established multiple layers of representation and oversight. The bitter experience of council subjugation had made humans particularly wary of concentrated power and particularly committed to individual rights. 3 years after Protocol 7, a significant development emerged. Representatives from 42 independent worlds, both former council members and previously unaligned planets, approached the Free Earth territory with a proposal for a new interstellar alliance. "We have observed your governance model," their spokesperson explained during preliminary discussions. "We believe a cooperative framework based on Earth's principles of equality and mutual respect could benefit all our peoples." The proposal sparked intense debate among human leadership. Some, still scarred by the Council experience, advocated maintaining complete independence. Others saw an opportunity to shape a better galactic future. "We left the Council because it was fundamentally unjust," Jake Morrison argued in the debate. "If we can help create a truly equitable alternative, isn't that preferable to a fragmented galaxy?" "But can we trust them?" Lisa Parker countered. "Many of these same worlds stood by while the Council exploited us for centuries." "People can learn from mistakes," President Carter observed. "Many of these worlds have undergone their own revolutions since the Council collapsed. Their current governments bear little resemblance to those that supported our exploitation." After months of careful negotiation, the Treaty of New Earth was signed, establishing the Galactic Cooperative of Sovereign Worlds. Unlike the hierarchical council, this new organization enshrined principles of absolute sovereign equality, with unanimous consent required for any action affecting member worlds. The signing ceremony, broadcast across formerly council space, represented a stunning reversal of fortune. Jake Morrison, who had once stood before the council as a supplicant, now represented humanity as equals among the galaxy's powers. 5 years ago, I stood before the Galaxy Council as they dismissed 2 centuries of human contribution and stripped away rights we had earned through decades of effort. Morrison addressed the assembled representatives. "Today, I stand among equals to forge a new path forward, one based not on ancient privilege or military might, but on mutual respect and cooperation." The cooperative headquarters was established on a neutral world, deliberately distanced from New Earth, to symbolize that this was not a human-dominated organization, but a true partnership. The facility's architecture featured a circular chamber where all representatives sat at identical positions, a conscious rejection of the Council's hierarchical design. Not all former Council species joined the cooperative. The Draconian and Crystalline empires maintained their hostility toward humanity, though their diminished capabilities rendered them regional powers at best. Other species chose independence, preferring to establish bilateral agreements rather than join multilateral structures. On the 5th anniversary of Protocol 7, humanity celebrated not just its independence, but its renaissance. The population of the Free Earth territory had grown to 5 billion, spread across 70 star systems. Technological advancement had accelerated beyond even the most optimistic projections, with innovations in medicine extending human lifespans and quantum communication enabling instantaneous connection across vast distances. President Carter, addressing the citizens of New Earth from the central plaza of Orbital City, reflected on the journey. 5 years ago, we were forced to make an impossible choice: continue our subjugation or abandon everything we had built over 2 centuries. We chose freedom, not knowing if our gamble would succeed or fail. She gestured to the thriving metropolis around them. Today, we can say with confidence that we chose correctly. Humanity has not just survived, we have thrived. Our technology, our culture, our governance have all advanced further in 5 years of freedom than in 200 years of council oversight. In the diplomatic quarter, Jake Morrison hosted a reception for representatives of the Galactic Cooperative. The atmosphere was relaxed and collegiate, a stark contrast to the tense formality of council gatherings. "Ambassador Morrison," an Alarian representative approached him. "My government recently opened our historical archives from the council era. We discovered something you might find interesting. The representative handed Morrison a data crystal. This contains internal council deliberations from 70 years ago. There was serious discussion about elevating Earth to full council status, in recognition of your contributions to hyperspace navigation. What happened? Morrison asked, though he could guess the answer. The draconian and crystalline representatives threatened to withdraw if humans were granted equal standing. The others capitulated to preserve council unity. Morrison nodded, unsurprised. And now both those empires have collapsed, while humanity prospers. There's a lesson in that, I think. Indeed, the Alarian agreed. My people have a saying, those who cannot share power will ultimately lose it entirely. As the reception continued, Morrison found himself speaking with Admiral Sullivan, who had recently announced her retirement after overseeing the establishment of Earth's defensive network. Did you ever imagine this outcome when we initiated Protocol 7? Morrison asked her. Sullivan smiled wryly. I expected us to survive. I hoped we would maintain our independence. I never anticipated that we would thrive to this extent, or that we would help reshape the galaxy. The Council's greatest mistake was underestimating us. Morrison reflected. They saw our adaptability as weakness, our diversity as disorganization, our willingness to compromise as lack of resolve. And in doing so, they created their most formidable opponent. Sullivan concluded, as night fell over Orbital City, the lights of human civilization stretched across the planet below and outward to the stars. Ships arrived and departed continuously, traders, explorers, diplomats, and immigrants from across the galaxy, all drawn to the vibrant center of the new galactic order. Among the millions of humans going about their daily lives, few actively thought about the Galaxy Council anymore. For younger generations born after Protocol 7, the Council was merely history, a cautionary tale about the dangers of arrogance and the value of self-determination. But for those who had lived through the Exodus, who had abandoned homes and possessions to secure freedom, the memory remained vivid. They had risked everything on the belief that humanity deserved better than perpetual second-class status. That risk had been rewarded beyond their wildest hopes. In his private office, Jake Morrison finished recording his memoirs of the Council era. The final paragraph read, "When humanity severed ties with the Galaxy Council, we did not know what awaited us. We only knew what we were leaving behind, a system that demanded our contributions while denying our equality. The path we have traveled since then has not been easy, but it has been unquestionably worth the journey. In seeking our own freedom, we inadvertently offered the same possibility to countless others across the galaxy. Perhaps that is humanity's greatest contribution after all, not our technology or resources, but our unwavering belief that every sentient being deserves respect and self-determination. The age of freedom has only just begun."